One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. I'm here on campus at the University of Oklahoma and I'm joined by Zac Selmon. Zac is the Senior Associate Athletics Director for Administration and Development. Greetings, Zac. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, good morning, Ty. Thanks for being here, man.
Well, I'm here in this, it's called a preview center, right? Where you build what would possibly be in the stadium or in the new facility so potential donors can come and take a look at it. And it looks really nice. Like it's crazy that you make an office out of this, right? I want to talk to you a little bit, Zac. You've been in sports administration for almost 10 years. Most of the time here at Oklahoma. You spent some time with Bubba Cunningham over at North Carolina, of course, a student athlete at Wake Forest. And it seems to me that your responsibilities have grown significantly in just 10 years, right? Which is great, which says a lot about you for people like Joe here and Bubba Cunningham to trust you with the responsibilities you have. The things you do here in the department seem to cover a lot of the important aspects of development and some of the, I guess, how they tie to strategic initiatives here at Oklahoma. Can you give us a little bit of insight into your role here and how it supports the department and maybe even the campus as a whole in terms of what you do with development and fundraising?
Sure, yeah, and it's exactly. I mean, you mentioned two of my mentors, two of my teachers and friends in life, and Joe Castiglione and Bubba Cunningham. So I think they've really helped me broaden my view of college athletics from a time, when I first started working here, I was selling boxes in Oklahoma City. So I always say Joe C. saved me from selling boxes in Oklahoma City. Ran into him after I got done at Wake. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And Joe said, hey, look, I've got an opportunity if you want to come see what college athletics is all about. And my uncle Leroy was the athletics director at the University of South Florida and helped start the football program there. So I always knew what it was from afar. And as a student athlete, you go through your daily routine. You kind of know what it is, but you don't really know. And so when Joe saved me from the box world, he really just put me in positions to grow. And then obviously when going to North Carolina, Bubba helped expand my knowledge of the business from a truly a major gift fundraiser to, okay, what's the day-to-day operations of an athletics department look like? And then being able to come back and work here with Joe in kind of a similar role and then expand into oversight of our development office and letter winner club has been really good. So I think it's just having great teachers, learning and absorbing as much as we can, and which leads me to my responsibilities today of the management and the leadership of our development unit, some of the things we're trying to do there, but also having a role in the culture, the strategic initiatives of the department. It all goes hand in hand. Right. And so it's just been a blessing and something I'm very grateful for and fortunate every day.
Well, I mentioned in the intro the preview center, right? And you think about all the things that a school like Oklahoma is working on. There's always something in progress. And you think about strategic initiatives and what you're building. In your role as development, is it a situation where you're sitting in the meetings to think about what is needed on campus and in athletics, and then you take that and go out and talk to donors? Or are you outside of that meeting, they tell you this is what we're going to do, and then you go out and basically bring in the money to make things happen? Like, how was your role involved with that whole strategic?
Yeah. Traditionally, we'll sit in those meetings, and because we have to be storytellers, and we have to be storytellers of knowing, okay, what's the practitioner? So whether that's if we're working on a strength and conditioning facility, what's our strength staff say we really need? And then one of the beautiful things about Joe and his vision, I mean, he's an icon in the business because he's not looking at it for 5 years out, 10 years out. He's looking at it for 30, 50 years out. So whenever we're in those meetings, then we can go and share the story with our donors of this is what we're thinking. The Griffin Family Performance Center is a great example of working with Blake and Taylor Griffin on a new strength and conditioning facility for both basketballs. We built the infrastructure of it to service the needs of today's student athletes, technology, but also the footprint of whatever that emerging technology is 10, 15 years down the road. So that's great, and donors really appreciate that because we want to be great stewards of their resources, but we also want to make sure we're on the cutting edge of what we're doing for student athletes right now as well.
So in that story you just told, there's a whole bunch of different parties, right? You got the Griffiths, you have strength and conditioning, and you have basketball. How much do you interact with the three parties to make sure everything fits into what each person's vision of what they want to do is executed?
Yeah, we'll work with our architects, A&E services here on campus, and we've got other people on our staff that oversee our facilities. So we'll sit in the room also with our sport administrators from both of those programs, work with the coaches, what are the needs, and then kind of put together a list. And then it's on our architecture group to come back with us of this is what we can do, this is the cost, and then we start scaling it back from there. So it's really just communication. I think a core thing of what we all do is just how do we communicate and then share, hey, maybe this is too expensive, maybe this doesn't fit in the scope of this project, but you got to be able to communicate that too and have the trust and that everybody's kind of pulling the same way.
Right. I imagine that the strength coaches are probably like, we need the best of this, the top line of that, and this would be out in 3 years, so let's make sure we have room and in the budget to be able to get that. Who has that conversation with the strength coaches?
It's a variety of people in that room. So I don't think there's hey, this is how it's going to be, but we'll always bring in, one of our administrators that oversees strength and conditioning. Okay. If we need, hey, this is what we're thinking. But we've got a great team here. Yeah. And everybody kind of gets it of, look, we're going to do whatever we can to be the best, the cutting edge, and we've done it here for a long time in Oklahoma. We're very humble in our approach, but we're also very proud in our history and kind of hungry for the future. So I think everybody kind of understands that we'll do whatever we can do
to make it happen.
Yeah.
There's the Griffin family, right? Hey, we want to do something. Or do they come with a specific thing? Hey, I remember when we played, now that I spent my time in the NBA, there's some things in strength and conditioning that I think Oklahoma could probably use. Or do they say, I want to do something, do you have any ideas for me? Like, how does that work? Especially a former athlete coming back, pretty high profile.
That started, just when Blake started thinking about his legacy. Mm-hmm. And I think more and more guys in professional sports, women in professional sports are thinking about how can I create a legacy? How can I give back? And so for Blake, he was a workhorse in the weight room. Obviously, he was physically blessed, he and Taylor both, but they loved working out. And that's kind of what makes their brain tick now. How can I get my body, my mind, my spirit better? And so that's how their interest in those elements and our need for a new conditioning center for basketballs kind of just aligned perfectly. And so then from there it was, sitting down with Blake and Taylor and Joe and getting them in the room of, hey, look, this is what we need. And then, but we want you guys to be a part of this whole planning process because to your point, those guys get to see the best of the best anywhere in the world. So we want to bring that here. And we also want those guys to come and train in the summer. And this past summer was great because, we have Blake Griffin, Buddy Hield, and Trey Young all working out in our facility, or in Blake's facility, which is great. It's great for our current guys, and it's great for recruiting for all of our sports.
Everybody, right? Past guys coming back.
Absolutely.
Right. Institutional advancement, the campus part of development. What is your relationship with campus in terms of institutional advancement and then athletics development and those synergies?
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to communication. So I'm the liaison with university development. So sit in on their monthly meetings and we communicate a lot of what their initiatives are, what they're working for, and vice versa for us. Essentially, so we want to protect the institution at all costs. We don't want to go see a donor if the College of Business is asking for a gift. If that's the case, we'll put both of our proposals together and go in together. So we're being respectful of the donor's time, but also being great partners across campus. So I think we look at athletics as just a way that we can further align and enhance the brand of the institution. So we approach it the same way with university advancement of great partners. How can we help you guys do your jobs better and vice versa?
A final question here. You mentioned the elephants you worked for, right? The elephants in the industry. Bubba Cunningham, you were currently working for Joe. You only spent 1 year under Bubba, but I imagine you learned a whole lot, right? And you've been I guess, 8 or 9 years here under Joe before and after North Carolina. So you have this like executive level training right from the outset. Are there some key aspects you learned from those guys that help you do what you're doing now and wherever your career takes you in the future? Like, can you identify one or two things that those guys taught you that you felt like was key to your rise right now in college athletics?
Sure. I think, first and foremost, both of them are such great men of integrity. Their personal integrity of upholding the integrity of the institution is unmatched. Their love for student athletes and belief in the power of sport and how it fits in with higher education. Both of those guys are unmatched. But there's differences of how they approach their day to day, and that was inspiring to me because it's like you can take principles from all great leaders and then merge them into how you can authentically be yourself. And so for Joe has always been in a position of, look, self-sustaining athletics department, continuing to grow what he's done from his time here to now, just over 20 years here has been remarkable. And now it's, hey, how can we not only predict the future, but how can we shape the future of college athletics and enhance the student athlete experience? Have that from Bubba, he inherited a position at North Carolina, some things that he didn't have any part of, but approach it with joy and grace each day, and was able to rally an athletics department that needed to move forward. And I think he did that beautifully, and is leading it to a great athletics department, one of the top ones in the country, and obviously one of the most iconic brands in the world. So I think both of them are steady in their approach to leadership. Yeah, so I think it's didn't matter what the situation was. They were steady. They were positive. They never wavered from their vision of what it could be. And so I think that's what I take away from both of them daily, and how do I approach my day to day. But yeah, it's just constantly learning. I've been very blessed to be able to have a crash course in leadership from those two.
Right, which brings me to this, and this is the last question, I promise here. You have a team working for you now, people who work in development, people who go out and do the things as you lead, as you're directed and you direct, right, to what they do. Have you developed your philosophy on leading people in leadership based on what you've learned and what you've cultivated within yourself to be a leader now?
Yeah, I think just by practice hopefully you get better. But when I look at my leadership style, I think back of when I was a young kid, and my mom started a soup kitchen here in Norman, Oklahoma in 1983. She saw a need of a homeless population. So I grew up, had birthday parties at the homeless shelter. People thought that's weird. I never saw that. I thought that was normal. And so my leadership philosophy has always been a cup of soup tastes better served. And what I mean by that is servant leadership. To give, to put others in position is always better than to receive, to multiply. So that's always the approach that I've taken in leadership, is just, how can we be humble servants, and how can we really try to put the best interests of others ahead of ourselves, knowing that we're all going for a common goal. And for us, our common goal is we want to have the best student-athlete experience in America. Right. And there's a lot of different inputs that go into that. But if we see our student-athletes working out, grinding every day, then we as team members can do that in our day-to-day, and the results will take care of themselves.
Well, Zac, this has been an excellent conversation. I can almost guarantee that Joe feels like he has an asset and friend in you working in his department. Of course, Bubba probably hated to see you go, but knew where you probably wanted to be. So I think they both probably appreciate what you do and what you've done for them in terms of leadership and the people who work for you. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
Thanks, Ty. Appreciate it.
That was Zac Selmon. He's the Senior Associate Athletics Director for Administration and Development here at the University of Oklahoma. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.